The journey of science communication is a tale of evolution. From the printed pages of the first scientific journals to the digital expanse of the internet. We began with newspapers, scientific journals, magazines, and then came television where we had science dramas, medical dramas. We even had good National Geographic channels where we saw animals. Then we progressed, I think we have blogs, podcasts, even social media. Social media is super powerful. We get a lot of content, we tweet a lot of things, we see a lot of videos that has been more engaging about science. And now I think the advancement is all in virtual reality, augmented reality. It connects too much into the culture, into the disciplines. We are able to connect a lot of different things on science. I think science has grown a lot. There has been a tremendous growth in how we consume science, how we understand science, and how we take that science to public. People need to understand more on this intricate concepts. We ourselves are on the verge of using a lot of information that is being shared across the internet. So what do you think, or which medium of science would most young generation researchers use?
Being a blog post or maybe journal blog post, it's still from Scientific American or Science, but they're more opinion takes, I would say. And I think it's been focused on a lot, I think, provided from National Science Policy Network. People post different articles they found interesting, and then kind of sparks my interest. And then I'm kind of subscribed to a certain number of magazines, so I kind of look at my email to see. But they're very more, I would say, definitely science, fact-based, but then opinions kind of coming from those facts, so to speak.
I definitely like reading the news, specifically related to problems I'm interested about, I'll be honest. In terms of what I read, probably articles, anything about AI or climate on NPR, or any sort of interesting op-ed that I find useful. I try and stay away from things that I find very polarizing, but anything that's kind of almost an explainer, almost it gives a review of the field and where it's at and where it's headed, and maybe less of a specific research article that's being published about. Because if I'm not in the field, I'd rather have a review of the entire area than a very particular thing.
As a scientist, how do you view social media, and do you use social media as also a news source, or as a way to share your science, or how do you go about social media?
Slack space or email, I feel and then Facebook. I think sometimes if there is certain New York Times, headlines that are scientific, then that's probably where I get some of the more mainstream, I think, articles that come in. Or now Google has a search tool where you can see what the most searched topics are, and sometimes you see the Alzheimer's drug and news about that, or just interesting findings that you're oh wow, I didn't even know scientists were looking at that. So you can kind of get piqued interest.
I guess it depends what you define as social media. If you define social media as actively maybe posting about your life or consuming information from social media in some way, then maybe I'm somewhat involved. Ideally, I like to consume things that have a somewhat higher barrier to entry. Barrier to entry meaning it's you can't just open up your phone and then start recording about any random topic with no thought about it at all. I definitely like it when what I'm consuming has some sort of thought and provocation towards it. And it doesn't really matter, I guess, if it'd be one of those reels or if it'd be a large form video. Usually the large form videos are a little easier to kind of grasp from, but it doesn't really matter. It's all kind of content, but usually I like the stuff that's definitely more you can tell that thought was put into what was being shown to me. Now, does that always happen when I'm on social media? Well, no. That's why I have a mixed relationship with all social media. And I feel like probably a lot of people do.
Translating complex scientific research for the public is still a significant challenge for scientists and researchers. The depth and nuance of scientific language, filled with specialized terminology and intricate concepts, often lose clarity and simplification, making widespread understanding very difficult. But this has been necessitating and moving across with engaging storytelling to keep the public informed and captivated. Artificial intelligence emerges as a pivotal ally in this endeavor.
Do you use ChatGPT in your work?
No, I haven't actually yet. I mean, I've been curious to like just try in terms of like, writing an email or something. I know a lot of people have done the writing the email portions of it, but not like I have not heard about actual like work. But I know people have been using it for more like, I don't know how to write this email, so they might just use ChatGPT to get ideas of how to structure it. But no, I haven't personally tried it. So I feel like I don't have much user experience in terms of saying what it helps with and doesn't help with, I guess. But it's pretty mind-blowing that we have a tool that does it. Like just from what people have been talking about it, I'm just like, oh, whoa, that's insane. I wouldn't have thought when I was in college it would happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a computer scientist, so I definitely use AI in terms of writing, mainly to do like maybe a brief literature review of something. More specifically, probably utilizing a tool like Bard, or no, it's called Gemini now. So that's probably from a writing aspect what I use for as like a starter point. Almost like what I used to use it as terms of like going to Wikipedia. Now instead, I'll be very specific with my context and almost use it like a really advanced search engine. So that's probably the main thing that I for writing, what I'll use that for. And I think that's kind of like interesting because like what we talked about a lot at the conference was like, oh, well, you get risk of being summarized out, right? Because like you could summarize out information that's valuable.
Not just ChatGPT, like we have a lot of like AI-based large language models, that is what we call them. So they have been like super helpful on how we write codes, how to write clean codes. Sometimes it becomes your teacher. It tells you what to do. But it also comes with the challenge of like what information to trust an AI for and what not. Sometimes it bites out your creative side, which you need to like understand more and utilize further. Or to check the credibility of it, does it have all the essentials? Is it referring to the right source? We are still understanding how to handle these large language models. In that science research, the science ethics of like what scientists could use from AI and what we could communicate to the public or how to alert the public, because misinformation spreads just like that with the public. So how do we create that line of like it's a true information and they need not panic for misinformation? We are still doing, or we are still learning that.
Where do you all think science media is going, and what is the role science communication is going to play?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it really depends on your audience. Like, it really depends on what your audience's needs are and like what medium they really like to like be communicated in. So like where science communication is going for maybe 65 plus people, I would say it's probably not going to change too much unless the people are getting fired from their jobs at news organizations. So maybe it will be going down because there's not going to be as much communication in newspapers that get sent to those people's houses. In terms of maybe like Gen Z, probably more towards the like almost like personal brand type of science communication where they'll like actually see active scientists maybe doing a job, or they'll see maybe like someone that looks like them like communicating on a new subject so that they can like trust that person. and they feel like that person they can relate to more than maybe like some sort of like person on the media or on like an anchor on like a news site. So I guess for me, it'd probably like really depend on who your audience is where it's going. And then I don't know how much AI will affect all this, but because it might like destroy the recommendation algorithm. So I don't know, but to leave it brief, that's where I think it probably is going.
What do you think? Is this where we are going? Audience-based science, or it is content-based science? Are we ready to deal with it? What do you think?